Kingdom is an otherworldly experience, and for more than just being a digital fairy tale. It's also an unusual blend of 2D tower defense, management-based roguelite-y strategy, and quiet, melancholy art. It's alternately a frenetic push and pull of vassal versus foe, and a meditative, pastoral management sim. It is a game in which the acquisition and spending of wealth are the only explicit mechanics. It is also a game in which wealth hoarded is wealth wasted, in which generosity is as vital as greed. Kingdom is a game which teaches you nothing beyond the simplest one-step interactions available, but through success and failure, educates its player in effective and responsible stewardship of its quaint, fantastical monarchies. Equally, it won't give you a single line of exposition or lore to chew on, but it will tell you a wonderful story all the same. I'm going to discuss how it does just that, but with a couple disclaimers. One, this is strictly based on the pseudo-expansion, sort of remake version, Kingdom New Lands. It's basically the same as the base game, but with more mechanics and more secrets and more of basically everything. Kingdom 2.0 if you like. 2, much of the fun and mystery of Kingdom is in puzzling out its various systems, and being subtly guided through those systems by the invisible hand of a developer that tricks you into thinking that your discoveries are your own. It deliberately doesn't explain much of anything, beyond its most foundational rules. Consequently, there will be spoilers of a sort. If you prefer to work these things out in the game for yourself, I'd urge you watch no further. But before any of that, I'd like to tell a story that Kingdom told me, without ever saying a word. On the first day, a new king comes to a new land. Following east along a gentle shore, he rides a modest but faithful steed into a land overgrown. All around is thick twilit forest. The solemn trees drink from the sun, beyond what trickles through the implacable canopy. There is no light save the torch held in the king's hand. Soon he comes to a clearing, greeted there by the spectre of a man in a crown. The long-dead ruler of this place, an ancestor. The spectre bids the king to follow. Beyond the forest is a plain, here and there strewn with gold coins, which the king takes, as is his right. The dead directs the living to cast some coins into a long-extinguished campfire, and merry flames burst into life amid the ash. Wandering nearby are the mindless, shambling semblances of men, but the gift of gold is the gift of reason, and a boon from the king buys their presence of mind as well as their loyalty. Still under direction from the spirit, the king buys tools for his new vassals. Bows, hammers. Labourers raise palisades, bowmen hunt rabbits, and finally, the Wraith King departs, leaving his young ward a simple instruction. At sunset, a trader rides into camp. Night falls and the young ruler stands the watch with his guards. Morning arrives, the merchant pays greatly in tax, and the king thinks nothing of a small investment in the man's venture, before riding east to explore beyond the borders of his new kingdom. East, into more gloomy forest, where there are forgotten riches and dishevelled camps of equally dishevelled people, to whom the king gifts purpose and gold. Coin purse fit to bursting, the king orders the eastern border expanded. Walls are fortified and more bows are purchased for the people, who repay his generosity with the spoils of their hunts, for wealth is the king's to give. Satisfied, he sets off once more for the east, further now as evening draws in. Through the tangled wood, and there to a peaceful waterfall, where the king finds a great stag. Gold is offered, the exchange made, and the king's faithful mare stands at the falls in the stead of this lord of the forest, too magnificent a beast to hide in shaded wood. On the third day, a tent more befitting the king's station is pitched, and he retraces his steps into the west, finding there the wreckage of an ancient ship, and yet more destitute wanderers. On the fourth day, a great oaken hall is raised, a true home for the young ruler. The king is well pleased, but that night, while riding in the woods to the west of his lands, he is attacked by avaricious creatures. Fleeing behind his walls, archers dispatch the beast. Feeling bold, the king rides to investigate, and at the forest's western far edge, finds a mighty gateway of magic and stone. Suspicion raised, pride swallowed, and a swift return to the comfort of high walls. Days pass by lazily for the king, but the nights are now plagued by greedy demons, covetous things of envy and want, seeking gold, tools, weapons, anything of worth. As far east as the land will allow, the king stands brooding by the sea as it swallows the sun. As dawn approaches on the 9th day, the king orders the ancient vessel refurbished. Work is slow and expensive, but it will be a project, a hobby. And why not? If he should want to sail away, who can deny a king? In the west, the nightly attacks continue, and under the moon, hunters turn their bows to war. Work on the king's ship continues over the following days and nights, more and more as thoughts are of the east and the sea. On the 13th day, trees are cut down there, and as the fullest fire of the sun reaches the desultory camp, pitched there amid knotted roots, it is abandoned, the indignity of sunlight driving the inhabitants away. The king is troubled, but not overlong. Work continues on the ship. The next morning it is finished, and dutiful vassals begin the long push to the eastern shore amid the fog. The 15th dawn chases away disaster. In the king's absence, the western defences crumbled in the night, the defenders robbed of possessions and dignity. Only the sun saw off the beasts before they could tear through the rich farmlands. Walls can be rebuilt, pride purchased anew, and the ship continues the long march to the shore. The next night, farmers are robbed of their sickles as the palisades fall once more. Again the walls are rebuilt, but each night is worse than the last, and fear wars with guilt in the king's heart. Fear wins out. The sun sets on the 18th day. The king's ship sails with him aboard. The crown is safe. In a new land, the king is greeted by the same royal apparition. He leads the way to another campfire before vanishing into the morning mist. The enemy has followed the king to this land, but this time will be different. From an ancient shrine in the forest, he learns the secrets of stonecraft and builds a formidable keep of hewn rock and iron. Worthy subjects are knighted to bring the king's justice to the envious demons. With this mailed fist, an assault is made on the dark gateway. The king rejoices as the last archstone crumbles from the edifice. But joy turns to ash as a gargantuan stone leaps to life. The gate is repairing, and the king watches in horror as day after day, slowly, surely, all that was achieved is undone by the irrevocable magic of this unholy portal. He ran once and he can run again. A new ship will be needed, he muses. As intractable as the gate, winter arrives, slowing down the work. Nightly assaults continue as the gate unleashes greater horrors. Many-limbed revenants steal people away by air, and vast behemoths spew forth their lesser kin. A last pitched battle as the king makes his escape again to the east. A different ship, a different shore, and a darker fate for the crown. Knocked from the king's head and pilfered by a pitiable creature of envy and spite. No crown, no king. The king is dead. Long live the queen. The queen fucks up as well. The end. Now none of that is explicitly in the game. I basically made that up from filling in the blanks, but Kingdom is amazing at making you fill in the blanks, or at least making you want to. It's genuinely astounding. You have these grand, tragic stories essentially stitched together from nothing more than atmospheric moments, but Jesus are the atmospheric moments. The Fey King gallops through the shadow-haunted wood on a great stag. The Iron Queen commands her men as creatures of the night assail the walls. Peasants huddle fearful round the fire, as tales of demons and worse whisper in the night. Victory following the siege is muted as rain clouds cast a steel shadow. Food for the imagination, all of it. Cliché, sure, but rendered with so much confidence and style. Every moment illustrated in lush, evocative pixel art. None of it ever ruined by overindulgent prose like what you just sat through for 5 minutes. It's wonderful, a fairy tale generator right there on your PC. But Kingdom isn't a story-driven game, it's a mechanical one. Here's how it actually works. You start with a campfire and a few subjects. You cannot interact with them directly at all except by giving them money. All you can do is give them jobs. In fact, your only interaction with the world is to throw money at it. You get new subjects by throwing money at them. You build stronger walls by throwing money at the old ones. You get new mounts by throwing money at them. Want to rescue this cute dog? You guessed it, throw money at it. It sounds incredibly limited, but Kingdom is a management game at heart. It's all about what you throw money at and when. Do you need stone walls now? Would that money be better spent on farms? Will building a guard tower here just divert soldiers from the front line where they're most needed? These questions, and the answers you give, are the game. It would be easy to wish for more control, to hope for the ability to actually order your vassals around, but failure almost always results from spending money on the wrong thing or at the wrong time. You could wish that you could divert troops from the west when there's a particularly nasty assault to the east, but you could also have not blown all your money on farmers when it's archers you really need. My one real issue with this is that it's possible to completely stop attacks from one direction if you clear out all the enemy portals there, and it's very frustrating to have fully half your forces guarding an approach that just doesn't need guarding anymore. Aside from that, it rarely feels like you actually need more control than you have. It's all in the preparation, how you've built and planned. What I love is that the game is as stingy with advice on planning as it is with plot, meaning it doesn't give you any. That's not strictly true, it does tell you to build, expand, and defend. But that's sort of a lie. So, every time you start a new game or get to a new land, it's mostly covered in forest. You can't build in forests at all really, and so a first-time player reasons that you should just cut them down. It looks pretty, sure, but you need the farmland and another wall, or it's going to be a dull game, right? Remember those camps with the sad little people shambling around lost and confused without your sweet royal gold? Those are your recruitment centres. You can come back every day and there will be a few more people for you to hire on. What the game doesn't tell you is that those camps will disappear if you cut down the surrounding forest. If you don't have access to these camps, it's extremely difficult to survive the later stages of a run, when the enemy come in huge swarms that overwhelm undermanned walls. When I first played, back when Kingdom was just Kingdom and not New Lands, I remember being very annoyed by this system, because I would always game it by trying to hold off on cutting down the forest as late as possible to recruit enough people to hit a critical mass, which I thought was a very counterintuitive and boring behaviour for the game to foster in its player. And it would be a very stupid thing to encourage if the game actually encouraged it. The thing is, it never tells you that you have to cut down the forest. It seems logical. Trees in the middle of a dense wood can't be cut down. You have to shave off the edges bit by bit and slowly uncover the workable land beneath. The forest is in the way, so the forest has to go. But that's not how it actually behaves. If you're following the game's one actual instruction, it is obvious. You just expand outwards incrementally, bulldozing everything that gets in your way. Build, expand, defend. That was approaching Kingdom far too simply, though. You can't build in the wood, but there was nothing at all stopping me from building beyond it, other than the fact that I never thought to try. Find a clearing or make one and you can plop down a wall. The engineers don't mind where a build site is, they just do what they're told. Now you've got a woodland inside your kingdom, and safe access to a steady stream of new recruits. That's not all forests are good for either. You might think it's tempting to cut down all the trees apart from those around the camps in this case. Your archers will hunt rabbits on grassy plains during the day, but they'll also hunt the far more valuable deer that live in the woods. The deer will go just as sure as the camps when the trees come crashing down, and it can be dangerous for hunters to venture out beyond the walls. They don't always make it back when night falls and the greedy little demons come knocking. But if the woods are inside the walls, they can hunt in peace. That's not to say that you shouldn't ever cut down a single tree, you really do need the farmland sometimes. But you have to think carefully about which ones get the axe. Farms are very gold efficient, netting you far more consistent and reliable income than the same amount of woodland. But a hunter-based economy is absolutely a viable option, and a more militant one, as hunters will travel to your borders come nightfall to help with defence. Ultimately, you're the one in charge, and it's your call, but you're taught to value the wild places in the world, not just clear them away for something tidier and more civilized. The game never explicitly says that you can build in this way, but it never tells you not to either. Kingdom's a management game, but it's also a mystery game. Instead of uncovering a narrative, you explore the limits and interactions of its systems. It does explain the concept of forest conservation, mind you, it just does it with a game over screen rather than with a tutorial box. New Lands' later islands can be really challenging, and it's vital that you learn these lessons, even if you have to work them out for yourself. This might seem frustrating, but it's the same idea as basically every roguelike in existence. You achieve mastery over the game's systems by repeated exposure to them, and generally that exposure results in a kicked arse. It's the same thing From Software do in all their games, presenting an initially insurmountable challenge that you learn to overcome through successive failures. Every lost run is teaching you something new, and it's not at all hindered by Kingdom's utterly hypnotic mood. I have never ever been angry that I lost Kingdom. It's such a joy to just be in its worlds that starting again sounds too downright lovely to ever be upset about it. It's an utterly enchanting game. And its slow meditative pace helps with this too. Things can certainly take a turn for the worse with stunning speed, especially if a particularly bad night sees enemies rampaging through your economic heartland, but the steady tempo of play ensures that you can always see where you went wrong, what decisions led to that crisis, and what you might have done better. You could also argue that its one instruction, build, expand, defend, is a little misleading, if what it actually takes to win is moderation and care. But remember who tells you that. The ghost of a long dead fuck-up. Who's listening to advice from the one character in the game who is categorically in no position to give you advice? In subsequent playthroughs, it's even the ghost of your previous character who greets you. Literally the phantom of your own failure. The game might as well be screaming, do not, under any circumstances, listen to this creepy bastard. It's subtly teaching you to be a better ruler, always. Sometimes it's by drowning you in theft demons. Others it's in charming mechanical limitations. If you're playing right, you'll be constantly showered in gold from your farmers and hunters. In taxes, basically. But you can't carry too much. Your coin purse has a limit, and if you hit that limit, you just can't get any more money. It literally overflows and you drop coins that spill out, losing them forever. You're encouraged to always be shoring up defences and improving infrastructure. Always giving money to new recruits. Always buying them bows, hammers and sickles. Always giving back. Money in the king's pocket is no good to anyone. Everything needs your involvement as well, and your actual physical presence at that. Farms won't get bigger on their own. Towers won't go up unless you pony up. It forces you to be active and engaged in your kingdom. An absentee ruler will soon be ruling over nothing. The entire experience of play is contextualized as a battle between moderation and greed, because the baddies really are theft demons, that's not a joke. They don't kill anybody, they just take their stuff, stealing weapons, tools, and ultimately gold from your subjects, leaving them in the same degraded state as you find them in, shambling around, lost and confused. It's a whole different kind of unsettling, especially after a really bad attack as you ride past dozens of people rendered mindless and meek, seeking the cold comfort of the woods, as if they would rather hide than be seen in this state, some base instinct recognizing how far they've fallen. Somehow it's more uncomfortable than if they just got ripped limb from limb. The avarice of your enemy stands as a fitting counterpoint to the generosity the player is encouraged to show. The greed of the creatures is a violation, a transgression that makes pitiful shadows of once proud people, in violent contrast with the dignity and poise your gifting bestows. All this pathos and pride, horror and honour, and none of it requires a single line of dialogue. Sure, it's all in the imagination, but Kingdom makes sure your imagination has plenty to work with. Now, I'm not saying that Kingdom is advocating some specific political stance, but its systems are always encouraging you to be a kinder, more thoughtful and involved ruler. If you're not spending, the Kingdom doesn't benefit. If you cut down all the woodland in the name of expansion, what was lost with it will never come back. Decisions have real weight, and there's great use of perceivable consequence. You might not know what this shrine does the first time you encounter it, but once you've done a little experimenting, you can rely on its consistency. What it does is buff your knights for a set number of in-game days, and it ticks down predictably, so those who are paying attention will always know how long they'll have that benefit. Equally, you know that you can always build farms on these little waterfalls. You know that those recruitment camps will always disappear if you cut down the woods. You know that destroying a portal will trigger a huge retaliatory assault. Once you've mastered Kingdom's systems, very little is actually left to chance, beyond world generation. And working around that is just about playing the hand that you're dealt. Again, I can't stress enough how you learn all this without the game ever telling you any of it. Kingdom has a wonderful satisfaction curve that slopes gently from this wide-eyed and competent wonder to confident, triumphant competence. In telling you nothing, Kingdom preserves its sense of mystic beauty for as long as it possibly can. This tight-lipped philosophy is extended to a dearth of UI elements. Other than the coin icons that indicate an interactable object and the coin purse itself, there's nothing getting in between you and the game. There's no easy way to tell how much money you have in the purse either. You just have to count it. And if the bag is full to the brim, even that becomes impossible without physically getting the coins out and doing the adding yourself. They're made into these tangible, real objects. Once again, all because the game insists on telling you nothing. It's game design by subtraction. Simplicity. Nor do you think in terms of mechanics, as with so many roguelikes. You think in terms of logistics, of arable land, infrastructure, and manpower. It grounds you in its world effortlessly, because no mechanic is ever framed as such. No tutorial pop-ups helpfully explaining how everything works. Instead, systems and mechanics become secrets, hidden knowledge, passed from fallen queen to fallen king and on through the enchanted strata of each failed kingdom. Ruins layered on ruins, legacy on legacy, the weight of history felt in every breath. I'm reminded of a song by Kaladin Brood, a black metal band of all things. I love black metal, but it's so rare for a song to actually say much of anything, when mostly it's just screeching about winter and Satan and chainmail. It's just that sort of silliness that I love about it, but Kaladin Brood have a song called Wild Autumn Wind that's a little different. It's about the layers of history and the implacable march of time and dissolution. In many ways it's just as daft, but their extravagant high fantasy take on black metal is perfect for this huge theme, working with it to distill a sense of the grandeur, tragedy, the sheer existential horror of eons. Nothing lasts and all is ephemeral. Everything turns to dust in time, and two dudes, screaming over guitars, aided by not much more than a drum machine and a synthesizer, truly capture that feeling. They do a lot with a little, and Kingdom is just the same. The civilizations that you build all rust and decay. Even the things you maintain can't stand forever against time and entropy and greed. Kingdom is just pixels and code and sound files, but in tandem, they lay the veins of this alien history, and all the moments of failure, grace, and sadness that make it all up. All without saying a word. Hey, so I missed something out talking about this game, and that's the music. The music is phenomenal. It's amazing. It kind of reminds me of Ben Frost, which is high praise from me, because By the Throat's one of my favourite albums, and it really reminds me of that album. Anyway, I thought it would be remiss of me to not really bring it up, especially because I used some of it in that little story segment that I sincerely hope didn't bore you to tears. I'm going to link the artist's description for his Bandcamp page down in the description, and if you've watched this far, genuinely, thank you so much, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Cheers, thanks for watching.